Good morning, class. Today we are going to be doing a watercolor salt painting. So I'm going to show you how we do it, and here are the tools you need. You're going to need a glass of water and a paintbrush. You're going to need some salt and some watercolors and some painter's tape. And so what we're going to do, and you don't have to use painter's tape, but it'll just allow us to make a cool design that will not have paint on it in those sections. So I'm just going to take my tape, and the first thing we're going to do is just anywhere you like, put a line down the middle. So I'm going to do it at an angle just to give our painting some interest. Okay, and it's also cool because it's going to tape down our painting, so it's not going to move the whole time. And then we can do another one here. Now, as you're putting the painter's tape down, make sure you're really sealing the edges in, because otherwise you will have leakage and you'll have paint coming out from underneath. So we're just going to do like that, and then maybe like this. And I'm just making this up as I go along. You can use any kind of cool pattern you like. If you like squares, make the whole thing in squares. If you like triangles, make it all triangles. Anything you want, because you're the artist and there's no mistakes in art. And let's see. I think I'll do like this. Anything you want, guys. And we're just gonna tape up our painting. And let's see. No, I think that's good. We'll just leave it like that. Okay, so we're gonna work in sections. So you just pick which section you wanna work in, and then we need to wet that section. So this is gonna be a wet on wet effect. And so I'm just gonna start here, and I'm just gonna really wet my watercolor paper. And we're just gonna wet it, and we're not gonna wet the whole page, just this section that we're starting with. Okay, because we want it really nice and wet so the salt will melt and give us a really cool. Okay. All right, and then we're just gonna take our paint, and you want to do some kind of multicolor. So I like to stay within the color groups. So for this one, I'm gonna start with a dark purple, and I'm just gonna go all the way down this line. And you can see this is really wet. You can also see it's getting on my kitchen counter. But as you guys know from my other videos, I can just clean this counter, and this is washable watercolor paint. If yours is not washable, make sure that your learning coach or parent knows where you're doing it and is okay with getting a little paint. They may put newspaper down or have you do it on a piece of plastic so that you don't make a mess. So I just went with a lighter purple in the middle. And then instead of putting more purple on the edge, I'm gonna go with a really pretty teal. And just kind of let that mesh together. And this water is really making it blend nicely. We want a little bit of interest here. And then immediately, as soon as you're done, we're gonna take a little bit of salt and sprinkle it all the way down. And you can do it in spots, you can do it just right down the middle. And you can see, because it's nice and wet, the salt is reacting right away. And as it melts, it's gonna do a really cool design on there and make some darker spots and lighter spots. So now I'm gonna take and start my next one. So we'll just really wet our brush and get our next section nice and wet. And you really want to see like little tiny puddles of water on here. You really want it nice and wet, because otherwise the salt will not melt. Okay, and I'm gonna do this one with oranges, and we don't want to do the same thing we did with the last one. We don't want to have dark on the left and light on the right. So I'm actually just gonna make this almost like a little sunset. And again, you're gonna want a really wet brush with wet paint. And you can do swirls, you can do lines, anything you like. I'm gonna go with a super light yellow down here at the bottom. Blend it up. And again, you want this really wet, so if it starts to look like it's drying out, you need to really scoot. And I'm just gonna stick a little bit of red down here in the bottom, just so it's not so light down there. And then quickly, woo, put a little salt down. Okay, all right, next, we're just gonna keep working on our beautiful art, making sure everything is nice and wet. Picking your favorite colors, making cool patterns. So for this one, I'm gonna do some stripes, and I'm gonna do them red, and let's do blue. It'll be pretty because it'll make purple in the middle. Give it lots of interest. And you can see this is very wet, so that salt is going to be super cool on there. You can see it really reacts pretty quickly, but as it dries, it starts to really do some cool stuff. So next, all right, so just nice and wet. Remember, that's the key to success with salt painting. And just nice and wet. Little puddles. And I think we're gonna go in the greens. So I'm gonna start with a dark green, and I'm gonna go way down here with it. And remember, we want it really wet, so we'll just keep on wetting our brush and getting our paint really, really, really wet. And I'm just gonna do some really pretty different shades of green. It's my daughter's favorite color, so she already asked me if we could do some green. This is kind of a chartreusey yellow green over here. And then we will go to a very, very, very light green down here at the bottom. And then quickly into the salt. And you can see, the more salt you put, the more cool things happen. The wetter your paper is, the more the salt will react. So it's pretty fun. And you can use your favorite colors. You can do, it really works best if you do a combo of colors. So if you do more than one color in each, but you really could just do one color and just go lighter. There's all kinds of fun things you can do with this because you're the artist and you can do what you want. And that's always nice. If you want to make a piece of art to hang on the wall in your bedroom, you can just pick your favorite colors. If you want to give it to your parent as a gift or your grandparents as a gift, you can do that and just pick their favorite colors. You can make a beach. And for this one, I'm going to go really crazy, and I'm going to do black on this edge. And then purple, because that's my favorite color. So I'm always going to have some purple in my paintings, because that's what art's all about, is doing what you want to do. And I'm just going to go lighter and lighter on my purple. This is the lightest purple I have. Look how pretty that is. My favorite. And then I'm going to go gray here on the end. Okay. And you can see right away, this is a really cool design. When it's very wet, the salt really starts to melt and react right away. Okay, cool. And I think in this last one, we need to do some more yellows, so we can just balance it out. Maybe some reds. Because you do want to have balance in art. It's pleasing to your eye if you have a lot of balance. Okay, so let's see, what colors can we do now? Let's do some red, and we'll just do some red right here in the triangle. And then maybe some orange. And then I'm gonna go really bright sun yellow right here at the end. So now, while it's drying, we're gonna take our tape off backwards. So you can see this tape is on top of this other tape. So we wanna pull this guy off first. Now, just a fair warning, sometimes when you pull your tape off, it'll pull pieces of your paper off. But that's okay, because this is art and you're the artist. It's no big deal. So I'm just gonna pull these pieces of tape off, and it'll just show us the relief. And some of our colors might bleed in, and that's okay. If you don't want them to bleed in, you can wait till it's completely dry. I like to do it when it's a little wet, so it doesn't pull off. You can see there's paper stuck here. That's totally fine, especially if you end up hanging it on your wall and it's behind glass. No one will ever see it. And I kind of like it how they leak over. I think it looks pretty cool. Oh dear. You can see stuff happens when you're doing art. Sometimes your paper will rip. Sometimes your tape starts to mess up your art, and that's okay. That happens to the best of us, and that's all right. Oh dear. You can even go back and paint over it, and that's fine too. So I'm just gonna go back this way, see if I can salvage my painting here. And I'm just gonna pull this piece. Boom. It's not perfect, but nothing is. So this is what our art looks like. I think it looks really neat, and it's still drying, so I can't take the salt off of it. But if you take your finished piece, so this is what my finished piece looks like on my other one that I did. And you can see I did a better job of pulling the tape off on this one. So I'm just gonna go over to my sink and wipe my salt off, and then I'll show you what it looks like, because this one's dry. So this is your finished project. It looks beautiful. And you can see the salt really made some neat designs in here, and it just looks really lovely. I love how this one really looks like a sky on a sunny day. So that's our art this week, guys, and I'd love to see what your art looks like. So send me emails with your art.